Hello, and welcome to Improbable Things. I'm J. Grace Pennington, and this is my podcast where I share 6 improbable thoughts before breakfast. And I am up early, got my 6 things ready, and I'm really excited for all the things I have to share with y'all today, so let's get started. So number 1, I wanted to share the news that I got my book Firmament Humanoid that I've been working on, the 8th book in my series, finished and sent off to my editor once and for all. I ended up doing 4 kind of, I would say, major drafts, and it's probably one of the books that I've done the most changes to of all of my books, like in rewrites. Like there's been a couple, I can think of one more that I've done even more changes to in the rewriting process, but for the most part, I think partly because I tend to outline a lot at the front end, I don't always do a whole lot of huge changes, and so it was just kind of, it was definitely a lot of work, but it, like I said, I think I told y'all last time, it turned out so much better. And then there ended up being one more thing I really needed to adjust before I got it off to my editor. One of my beta readers skimmed over the 3rd draft and just pointed out that the climax was still, even though I changed it so much, was still lacking a little bit of tension. And he gave some suggestions, and I was able to implement some of those suggestions with my own spin and thankfully make it so much better. And this is where I cannot overstate the value of beta readers, because you can just get so caught up in your own head writing things. It's so impossible to be objective, to tell what's missing and to tell if something's working. So having that outside perspective is just so helpful. Having those people you can trust that have a great story sense to be able to tell you or point you in the direction of what might need to be changed. So anyway, it's off with the editor, who's going to begin working on it soon, and I'm just really excited to be getting it onto Vella very soon. Number 2, I mentioned last week that one of the things I really need to do is write the back cover copy for the book. And that's another thing I've been working on, doing multiple drafts, getting some of my beta readers to have a look at it. And so I'm not sure yet if this is 100% the final draft, but I think it's pretty close. And so I wanted to go ahead and give y'all the first sneak peek of the book summary. And once I'm sure that this is nailed down, I'm probably going to start sharing it on social media. But for now, other than my beta readers, y'all are the first to get to hear this. So here is the summary of the book Humanoid that is about to be released. After 6 months of absence, beloved Chef Elmira finally reappears on the Surveyor, bringing with her a vital clue to the location of her missing son. Her plea for help forces Andy and the rest of the ship's inner circle to face an impossible decision: obey orders and abandon the young man, or go after him and risk their careers, their futures, and their entire way of life. Their choice throws them into the middle of a decade-long mystery involving the loss of a ship, the death of a crew, and a secret that could unlock intergalactic travel. And when the search leads them to a form of artificial intelligence unlike anything they've ever seen, the answers may finally be within reach. Corruption, danger, and ambiguity abound. In the midst of it all, Andy must push through the confusion to piece together the puzzle, unmask an elusive enemy, and discover what it truly means to be human. So that's what I've got so far. And I would absolutely welcome and love if any of you have any feedback, anything that's a little confusing or that seems unnecessary, or, just something that catches you up, or, something that is distracting in it. Please let me know. I'm still, like I said, trying to make sure this is as good as it can be. So there you go. There's what this book is about. Number 3, one little small project that I've been working on. A fellow Christian sci-fi writer got in touch with me a few days ago to ask if I had any bookmarks, any Firmament bookmarks for her, because she's was going to be doing some promotional stuff and asked if, if I had anything for her to include, which was very kind. And the thing is, I had actually designed some bookmarks quite a while ago. I want to say maybe a few months ago, thinking that would be a great thing to have. And then I chickened out on ordering them because I was just like, what am I even going to do with these? Like, it's just another expense to order a bunch of them, whatever. So that was another reason, besides that it was nice to be thought of, it was great to kind of be pushed into doing that. The only problem is she pointed me to a much more affordable option than I had been looking at, but their only options for bookmarks on this particular website were not the size that I had designed. So I debated trying to resize and redesign it, but because it had taken me so long to do in the first place, I am not a natural graphic designer. I just decided to pay Canva some money to let them resize it, because I found out that resizing things is one of the features on Canva that you have to pay for, but it was worth it to me not to have to go over all that again myself. So I will have some bookmarks coming soon, and I'll have to see if there's any of y'all that want some, if I can get some shipped out, or maybe start shipping them out with books. That would be a fun thing to do. I just need to come up with some ideas for how to disperse those. But yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's something I've always wanted to do and just never have pulled the trigger on, which is something I'll get into a little more in another thought later. Number 4, we did Christmas pretty small this year for my kids because we already took them to Disney World this year. And so we kind of went with a little bit, smaller gifts. So they each got one small gift, and then for all of them, I got a CD player and a couple of CDs. Just when I was a kid, we used to listen to audio cassettes at bedtime, and we had several, and it was just a way that you can lay there quietly, and while you're not quite sleepy yet, or as a kid you have bedtime but you may not be quite ready to fall asleep, we could listen to a good story on our way to sleep. And we had the abridged Chronicles of Narnia, we had some Bible stories, we had a bunch of different ones. Sometimes I remember a few times getting some from the library, and it was just something I loved as a kid. And I was thinking I would love to do something like that with my girls, because they definitely are not always 100% ready to sleep at bedtime. And I thought they would have fun with that. However, obviously audio cassettes is no longer the way to go. And the normal, I think, modern version would be some kind of stories online, like on a tablet or something like that. But I felt very strongly that I don't want anything with internet connection in their room, especially at night, just in the interest of keeping them safe. And there's lots of yucky stuff out there. So I decided I would get them, we go one step back in the chain of technological advancement and get a CD player. And so we did that. I got them a couple of CDs. We got Amelia Bedelia and Little Bear, which are all books that we've enjoyed reading together. And then, so they've been listening to those, and they've listened to both Amelia Bedelia and Little Bear, probably dozens of times already, because they listen to them at nap time too. And then yesterday we finally got out and went to the library for the first time in a while, and they had a whole section there of books with CDs. And so that's going to be a great resource. I found, they had Madeline, which is a book we have, but so the girls are already familiar with it, and I thought they would enjoy listening to that one. And then they had a book that I loved when I was a kid called The Little House, just about a small house in the country that loves to watch the seasons change and watch the children play. And then the city grows up around her and everyone moves away and she's alone and can't see the stars. It's very sad. And then some of her original owners, like great-great-grandchildren, find her and take the house back to the country and fix her up. And it's just sweet, and the illustrations are really charming. So they had that book on CD as well. So we got that, and I think the girls listened to that one last night. So it's been really nice, and I think it's another way to encourage them to listen to stories because they're still pretty little, and it's a great time where they're not playing and they have nothing to do but lay there and wait to sleep. And so I think they've definitely really been enjoying it. They ask me for it every night, and it just reminds me so much of my childhood and how much I enjoyed that. So I'm really glad that I got that for them. So currently reading, this is number 5. I grabbed Jane Austen's Mansfield Park from the library, and I'm reading that one. And I know last week I was reading Persuasion, which I loved, and then I ended up watching a movie version of it that was really quite good. And then I looked at one of the next book recommendations that I have that I was wanting to read. And one of the ones that's coming up was a book about Jane Austen's novels and about the value that they have and how they impacted the writer of this book. And I just thought, why have I not read all of those yet? I don't want to read this book about them, obviously, before I've read them. And it's just taken me so long. I read Emma when I was, I think, my late teens, and then I read Pride and Prejudice 6 years ago, and then I just read Persuasion, and you know what? There's 3 more. So let's just pick up the pace a little bit. And I already have Sense and Sensibility. I just haven't read it yet. So I have that. I grabbed Mansfield Park and Northanger Abbey from the library. And honestly, I always think of them as being very long books, but they're really not that long. Persuasion took me, a little over a week to read. And so I thought, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to dive in and I'm going to read all these. I've enjoyed the ones I've read. And, most people in my circle, most women in my circle have already read them. And so I decided to start reading Mansfield Park and really enjoying it so far. I have seen a movie version of it, but it was a really long time ago. And I basically remember nothing about it, thankfully. So, but that's another thing I'm going to enjoy as I watch them. I'd love to find the best movie versions. It was fun with Persuasion because I got to just spend an evening just having a quiet time watching the movie. I did my nails, I did some knitting. It was just very relaxing. And so that's another part I'm looking forward to of finishing up reading these. Sense and Sensibility, I do know because I've already seen the version with, what's her name? Emma Thompson. So I know that story pretty well, but still I know the book is going to be so much better and really looking forward to that one. So anyway, that's probably going to be how I'm currently reading for a while, although I am going to intersperse them with some other books. So we'll see where I'm at next week this time. So number 6, I wanted to just talk in general about setting goals and taking risks. Because with the new year and with generally trying to build my business and see where this fits into my life, that's something I've been doing a lot of thinking about and working on. Because especially this time of year, of course, there's a lot of encouragement to set goals. And just in my quest to, like I said, build my writing as an actual business, it's something I've had to actually really face. Instead of the goal just being to grow or to do more, I've been really encouraged to set clear goals. And so when I thought about that, there was a goal that came very clearly to mind. I'm not going to share precisely what it was, but it was a financial goal, a certain amount that I would love it if I could get to making each month. And I don't think it's anything outlandish, but it's significantly more than I'm making now by a lot. And so facing that and knowing that that is something that I think has always been in my mind as kind of something to aspire to. And it's never really been something I thought would really happen, but I don't think, it's something that people that I know are able to do this. And so I know that I can, but it means that I'm going to have to obviously change something because what I'm doing now is not accomplishing that. And so I knew that that means I'm going to have to take more risks and get more out of my comfort zone. That's literally, if I stay in my comfort zone or slightly outside of it where I am now, then I'm not going to grow. And so if this truly is my goal, then I really do have to do some things differently. And I know that it's hard for anyone to get outside their comfort zone. Obviously, that's why it's called a comfort zone. But I think most people that know me would tell you that it's something maybe I avoid even more than most. I really like my comfort zone. I really like my routine. And I know, I was just talking to someone last night. There are people that are like risk takers, and there's people in my family that are like that, and they have an idea and they're like really good at implementing it. And that is not me. Like, I just like to stay in my lane, do what I've always done. And so it has been already, and even last year already, I've been pushing myself to do things that previously seemed very overwhelming or difficult to me, like starting my newsletter, and just spending actual time on the marketing side of things, because I do tend in my life to see time as such a valuable commodity. And a lot of times if I'm doing something, if it doesn't feel worthwhile, I'll just feel anxious because I feel like, oh, I could be doing this or that instead. But knowing that it's not, what I'm doing is not necessarily going to make a huge difference, or I'm not going to necessarily do it the right thing the right way immediately. Like, it's going to take time to see results. And so I'm going to have to be patient with that, even if it seems like progress is not being made. So that's all difficult. But this is something I really want, and I feel would be really beneficial for my family. And so it's something I'm really more committed to. And so I'm trying, like, I'm putting, and some of that also means obviously financial investment, like in advertising. Like, someone in a Facebook group I'm in who has been very successful recommended a particular course or a challenge on Amazon advertising, which is something I've dipped my toe into a tiny bit once, and it literally did nothing for me. And so I was like, oh, well, that didn't work. But I knew, like, there are so many different settings and options on there, and I knew, like, there's probably so much more I could do on this, but I just have no idea where to start. So this is really good. And while it's a free challenge, it does require you to set up actual ads, which of course costs money. And so that's a scary thing too, because, you'd be like, well, is it actually going to pay off? And the guy in this particular course too is very upfront. He's like, a lot of this is testing, and it telling you whether your ad is working or not, or whether the description you have for your book is working or not. And so you may not see results with your first ad or in your first week or, whatever, but some of it is still telling you valuable information. So yes, so many of these things that I'm doing, and also trying to just figure out what works, because every person and everyone's books and everyone's target audience is going to be somewhat different. And so like I've said, I'm still questioning, is this podcast worthwhile for me to be doing? And my blog, I have stepped back a little bit from my blog. Like, I'm still doing things like I just started up again with my little mini reviews for all the books I read last year. And there are occasional post ideas I get that I think are important that I want to put out there, but I'm no longer going to be committed to a certain number of posts per week or anything, because I just don't get a lot of engagement on them. It takes a lot of time, and I do feel like vlogging is something in these kinds of circles that does not have the power it used to. And so moving away from that a little bit and putting more focus onto things like my newsletter, still trying to build my TikTok and figuring that out, and things like ads. And these are things that I'm much less comfortable with, but that I think will be more beneficial to what I actually want to do, and to actually getting my books into the hands of people that can read and enjoy and be touched by them, which is my ultimate goal in writing. Making money and helping my family in that way is very important. But ultimately, the reason behind my writing and what I feel I'm called to is entertaining and encouraging and inspiring people through my stories. And so that can't happen if people are not reading them. And so it's going to take a lot of risk taking and continuing to slowly make my way further from my comfort zone. So yes, that's something I'm actively working on, and very interested to see how all of it goes. And I really do hope and believe that it will be worthwhile. Otherwise, of course, I wouldn't be doing it. So thank you all so much for listening. Let me know. I really want to hear your thoughts on my back cover copy, your ideas for how I can use my bookmarks once I do get them, any kids, like little kids audiobooks that you would recommend, and of course any thoughts on Jane Austen, or as always, anything that I've mentioned. So everybody, please have a great day and a great week ahead, and stay improbable. Bye!